Ashurbanipal's name, while fun to say, only comes up in Ezra 4 verse 10, even though he's probably the king whose death preceded the reformation of King Josiah in 2nd Chronicles. But in the whole Bible, Ashurbanipal is only mentioned as the Assyrian king who deported people to and from Samaria. Ashurbanipal's plan was weaponized diversity. You take over a region and immediately move some people out to other territories you control, and you bring new people in. Conquered peoples would have a harder time rebelling against the Assyrian Empire if they were surrounded by people with whom they shared nothing except the fact of their being conquered. It's hard to rally diverse people to a single cause. It's hard to get motivated about rebelling to save your homeland from oppression when it's occupied by other oppressed people for whom it's not even home. That was the thinking, as it was explained to me in Bible history lessons. A more recently applicable thought has come to me, though, that Ashurbanipal's policy imported scapegoats. By imposing diversity upon a region in the way that he did, he made life difficult for people in ways that he thought would benefit his rule, but he also ensured that people would always have someone to blame for the difficulties of life. Someone besides Assyria. Besides Ashurbanipal himself. He made it easy for people to hate the newly arrived foreign exiles and blame them for their problems rather than the faraway king who was exiling everyone. He was far away. But these diverse peoples right here, well, they're right here, and I have a hard time talking to them and therefore sympathizing with them, even though we're all in the same boat called Samaria. And this tactic is as old as sin. If history has taught us anything, it's be really suspicious of the guy who says, it's all those people's fault, I'm your friend, and think about how much better life would be if we got rid of them. Not that Ashurbanipal was saying that necessarily, but he was counting on people coming to that conclusion often enough that they'd never get enough people together to get rid of him and the Assyrians. He was counting on our natural tendency to blame the people nearby for our problems, even and especially if our problems are coming from farther away. And from God's perspective, we never land near enough to the people who are really to blame. Because it's always us. You are always to blame for your own problems. Not your neighbor, not the one black family moving into your white neighborhood. No scapegoat, no final solution. Your sin is your only problem, and it's only your fault. And it's crazy to me that God's solution to that was to send a scapegoat. And Jesus preached in Samaria all the time to mixed reviews, but to the people who listened, it must have been crazy. To the descendants of the diversity and intermarriage Ashurbanipal imposed on Samaria, Jesus came and preached the same hard truths about sin in order to highlight their need for a scapegoat, a Jewish one who came from the people who had been displaced, so that the Samaritans could be displaced in Samaria. But the Jews got to come back and have Judea and Jerusalem for just long enough to have the Jewish Messiah murdered there, and then for them to get dispersed and displaced again and become the scapegoats for too many guys to come along and say, it's all those people's fault. I'm your friend. Think about how much better life would be if we got rid of them. I love diversity. If you're different from me, I want to talk to you. That doesn't mean that Ashurbanipal couldn't have counted on me to blame whoever he placed next to me for my problems. I do that too, but I don't want to. I want to love whoever is next to me and across from me and all around the world. And that's because of Jesus. I count on Jesus to show me how to love people who are different from me, because I count on Jesus to love me and make me more like him. Jesus who said to me, it's all your fault, but I'll be your friend anyway. Think about how much better life would be if you loved everyone like I love you. Ashurbanipal was a politician. He counted on people being their worst and tried to use that to his advantage. Keep being suspicious of people who do that and find a way to love them and everyone like Jesus. You and I are dust and breath, loved by God, bought by Jesus. This podcast is written and produced by me, Ethan Cherney, a pastor at Bethel Lutheran Church in Menasha, Wisconsin, member of the Wisconsin Evangelical Lutheran Synod. Outro music arranged and performed by Mr. Peter Shawy, who is like a pent-up flood that the breath of the Lord drives along. Keep in touch. Reach out to us on Twitter or Facebook at Dust and Breath Pod, or send an email to dustandbreathpod@gmail.com. Or you could write us a review, recommend a episode to somebody else. That's the only way other people find out about the show. Now go, do what God called you to do, be who God made you to be, see what God can do with dust and breath and faith in Jesus, his Son.